Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. One of the disadvantages of a weekly program like this is that many events and incidents get covered a little later than most of the current events. So, in terms of the news making, we all know now what happened with Prime Minister Modi in his visit to Bhatinda and Firozpur. We all know that. We have many TV channels and experts talking about it, about the security lapse, or was it a deliberate plot? Had that particular plot succeeded, we would be having a different conversation today. But I, for one, as an ardent supporter of Prime Minister Modi, am very happy that nothing untoward happened. Now, the issue is very important. I mean, for me, it is impossible to imagine that a Prime Minister's motor car was stuck on a bridge for 20 minutes, 20 kilometers away from Pakistan border, surrounded by, stuck into farmers, supposedly farmers' agitation. Now the whole world knows, ought to know, that it was not a farmer agitation. After the agitations were called off, we know by the virtue of the Prashant Samiti, who said that it was not about farmers' bill, it was to disturb Prime Minister Modi. And that's where my favorite phrase comes out. We will never know everything about everything for taking a decision. But knowing what we know now, what is the surmise? I'm not bringing any political or intelligence expert on my show today. I have two very intelligent, bright professionals. And as common men, as laymen, as you and I, we want to talk about what is the impact and implication of this entire event, incident, and a potentially averted tragedy. I have Mr. Mohan Sonti. He's a brilliant technology person, works for a multinational, and now he's working on his own. And Dr. Sharma, whom you all know. Neither of them need any introduction. So good morning. Welcome to the show, Mohan and Rakesh. So having said that, let us shoot off. And I will ask the technology guy to mention here that, amidst the news that India is going to record a 9.2% GDP growth rate, and the Omicron, shooting up here and there, whatever is happening. How do you see this particular incident? And thankfully, it is only an incident in which Prime Minister was caught.
All right. Namaste, everyone. So I personally think this is more of a trial run, as in maybe there's a bigger plot for a later time. So they wanted to see if some of these things are even possible. So if something succeeds out of it, that's good news for them, for all the anti-Bharat elements. But otherwise, they'll see how people are going to respond to it. So there is a possibility that it's just a trial run. And maybe there's a bigger plan that is coming up, particularly given that there's going to be UP election, and we have more important things that are coming up.
No, there are important things coming up. Sharmaji, how do you rate this entire scenario? I don't think Prime Minister Modi is going to cow down or go slow down on the election campaigns. But just the impact and implication of this entire incident that has happened, your assessment of that.
First of all, Happy New Year to your viewers. And I hope this new year remains a happy year, not a previous year or so. We didn't start very well. By what we heard from Punjab, Prime Minister was a target or a sitting duck for 20 minutes or so on a bridge going from Bhatinda to a rally about 15 or 20 kilometers away from the airport. I don't think this was very planned kind of thing. The reason I'm saying that, because of bad weather, Prime Minister had to abandon helicopter ride, which was planned. So he had to go by road. Of course, whenever prime ministers or dignitaries plan something, there's one primary way of transportation and there's alternate routes. In this case, helicopter was number one choice. and road was number 2, and there could be number 3. And all these are actually discussed in advance with the local police department. So Congress government saying that we did not play with the weather, we did not cancel helicopter is absolutely true. But they knew in case the weather was bad, Prime Minister has no choice but to go by road. They knew that, and they also knew what highway he's going to take. So that they knew, and they took advantage of that. They were perhaps like, in case option 1 doesn't work out and PM has to travel by road, we can cause some kind of disruption. And that's exactly what they did. And I hope these people have enough brain not to target their own prime minister in a lethal way. And I'm hoping that even if they're Khalistani people, if they ever think of that, then it's going to be 2.0, because first time they did this to Indira Gandhi ji.
But political assassinations have happened in the world. Abraham Lincoln was killed, John F. Kennedy was killed, Reagan was attacked, Indira Gandhi was killed, Rajiv Gandhi was killed. A few days ago, soon after the farmers' agitation, it's on record, it's available on Twitter for all of you to see, and I have saved it in my file. There is a particular Punjabi guy, Sikh guy, talking about openly. And he says, Humne Indira ko uda diya, Modi kya cheez hai? Now, you have to put certain elements in perspective. What would have happened if something had happened to Modi? It would have been taken into account as another political assassination, right? The social media, the Congress party, is a bloody role of Congress party in it. Because they are out to destroy Prime Minister Modi's image as an evil. I mean, Sonia Gandhi called him Maut ka Saudagar. Rahul Gandhi called him Chaukidar Chor hai. They have accused him of statements that can be legally in the United States be deemed as defamation. Has no legal background, no moral, ethical justification for saying that. Because it was under Sonia and Rahul dispensation that Modi went through hell, from SIT to Supreme Court to all investigations to implicate him in the Godhra thing, and they failed, right? So the question here is, without any evidence, how can you still blame him for things that he didn't know? Point I'm trying to make here is that political assassinations happen. You do not know who does it. Indira Gandhi was killed by her own 2 bodyguards who are reckoned as heroes, right? And Indira Gandhi, despite intelligence bureau warning, she said, no, unke dil nahi dukhane hain. And see what happened. Look at the impact and implication of that particular decision that Indira Gandhi took. She was brutally assassinated. And after that, there were Sikh riots. And till today, the wounds of those, retaliation by Congress goons over Sikhs, where thousands were killed in Delhi and other places. The Sikh community still hurts with that. But the tragic part is, none of the Sikh people are even atoning for the fact that Bhandranwale did what he did. They say it was Indira's creation. See the point which I'm trying to make with you? I am totally aghast, and I say this with real sadness, that the Sikh people, not as it is true of everything. Just because a group of people do something doesn't mean the entire community is bad. That's a universal truism. You can't even argue against that, right? Nathuram Godse killed Gandhi, so not all Hindus are bad. But the proportion of people doing things is dangerous. So Mohan, coming to you on this very fact that this has happened. This incident has happened. Prime Minister was a sitting duck. He's quoted as saying, after coming to Bhatinda, कि अपने Chief Minister को बता देना, हम जिंदे चले आए. I have arrived this one. Chief Minister today saying, a few days ago, saying that, nothing was going to happen to him. These are very, very serious issues. How do you see this shape up with reference to Modi's own reaction or to this? And, we'll talk about that next point later. Go ahead, Mohan.
So the important thing we have to realize, like I said before, is this could be a trial run, and I think this is more of a deliberate carelessness. So, like Sharmaji said, it's obvious that the whole government knew exactly what the alternate plans were, and they showed a deliberate carelessness to see, in my opinion, how things will shape up, and more like a trial run to see if something can be planned better next time, and how the security guards have been response to these kind of situations. Now, said that, we also have to keep in mind, just literally weeks ago, almost at that level, was our CDS, General Rawat. Um, he died in a helicopter crash, and under similar circumstances, there are some eerie similarities between these two. So these are a few things that we have to keep in mind. So we cannot just brush it off as too many coincidences happening at the same time. So I don't think it is completely a coincidence. Now, the other thing is regarding the Sikh riots and other ones, I have to make a point here saying usually when we talk about when we Indians in America are very law abiding, and certain communities have a little violent intent and they do more crimes and things like that, it is not necessarily just a couple of bad elements who did it and the rest of the community can wash its hands away. Usually that is like a pyramid. It's the community that supports that kind of an elements. So what you see at the top are actually those people. Imagine, so what happened to Indira Gandhi ji, right? It is not just some two random people came and shot and walked away. There is a subtle degree of community support from the Khalistanis. It's more than subtle. So they just don't do it on their own. It is like a whole pyramid structure. So the rest of the community cannot just wash their hands away and say we have nothing to do with it. So yes, there will be consequences. If something were to happen, a community targets, there will be consequences. That's the way the nature of things are.
I hear your point. The community will eventually have to bear the brunt of the entire scenario, because you can't say that I didn't know about it, or I don't care, I don't know. It's possible you don't know anything about it. But Sharmaji, there is one question. You are from that region. You understand that region well. Explain to me something, and I'm not able to figure that out. That despite 1984, the Sikhs are unhappy, supposedly. I don't think Sikhs are unhappy. I suppose the Khalistanis are brewing, and I have a feeling if somebody were to do a scientific and aggressive research into that and in the intelligence analysis, that the many individuals masquerading as Sikhs are likely Pakistani elements. Likely Pakistani elements. I say this because it defies thinking, defies logic, that the Sikhs, gurus who gave their lives, who Sikh Pantha was created out of Hinduism, to contest and fight the invaders coming from the northwest. The 5 disciplines were created there. The Panch Pyaras were all Hindu. There was no Sikhs before it was formed, 600 years ago or whatever. So the point of the matter is that when Sikh gurus, their families, were so brutally annihilated, killed, murdered, boiled alive, how can any Sikh be taking a Pakistani help to destabilize India and call for a Khalistan land? That's one part, of which 50% or more is in Pakistan itself. So if you are brave warriors, why don't you go and fight there? Why don't you ask Pakistan to give back your original Guru Nanak place there? The second part is also important, that Sikh security forces killed Indira Gandhi, and there were riots done by Congress party people, not Hindus, Congress party people. This is a very important distinction that we all must make, that the riots against Sikhs and killing of Sikhs was not done by Hindus. It was done by Congress party goons. And those goons, those Sikh people are still part of Congress party? Give me a break. That always beats the hell out of me. Still, there are many Sikh leaders are hobnobbing with Sonia Gandhi as if she is the, karta dharta of their fate and fortune. Your comments.
Yeah. If you give me 3-4 minutes, I'll explain that.
Yes, you have 3-4 minutes.
It's not a very simple topic. And of course, my answer may make few Sikhs very angry, but that's okay. Uh, I'm from Punjab, speak fluent Punjabi. I can read Punjabi. The problem never existed until 30, 40 years ago. And I lived in Punjab only for 2 years, and we had no idea that Sikhism was a different religion. When I grew up, until I would say I came to this country in 1980, I had no idea that Sikhism was not Hinduism. All my best friends in high school, middle school were Sikhs. And because I grew up in New Delhi, and New Delhi was nothing but extension of Punjab at those days. That's number one. Number two, in my own family, there are some people who are married into Sikh families. So we never thought that Sikh was a different religion, because Hindus do 50, 60 years ago never married outside of their own religion. So marrying a Sikh was never thought of as marrying into a different religion. That's number two. Number three, the fault lies with Indian government and intellectuals. Why do I say that? As you mentioned, there was no Sikh religion until, I would say, until the last guru of Sikhs. All the 9 gurus were Hindus, born to Hindu parents. So somebody has to or had to tell Sikhs that all your gurus were Hindus. Even your last guru's 2 children, who were buried alive in the wall, when they were dead, Aurangzeb's men told them that nobody is allowed to cremate these 2 children. You know who came to the help of those 2 dead bodies? An Indian Hindu businessman named Todermal. Todermal was a very rich guy in what is Pakistan right now. So he gave asharfis or gold coins to this general of Aurangzeb, because the condition was you have to put that many asharfis as the size of the land you want to use to cremate these 2 bodies. So he spent, in today's value, I would say, close to $500 million to release the bodies of those 2 children of the last guru and cremated them. Our problem as the Hindus is we never told Sikhs what we did for them. We always heard what Sikhs did for Hindus. And by the way, Sikhs were Hindus. The first child of most of the Punjabi Hindu families was turned into a Sikh. So maybe my ancestor, the very first child, was made a Sikh to protect the rest of the family. That's where we went wrong. We never told Sikhs or Sikh community in India that you guys are part of us and don't treat yourself as a different religious figure. Now, what's going on these days is Khalistanis have taken over. When Mohan said, that it's a pyramid system, I totally agree with it. When it's a very bad English saying that one apple is bad. It's never one apple. If you look at the truck full of apples, if only one apple was bad, I don't think the problem would have existed. There are hundreds and hundreds of bad apples. That's why the whole truck gets bad. Here, what has happened is Khalistanis are not just 1 or 2 or 3. They are handful, and they have taken over the entire Sikh religion. That's what we saw in New York on 15th August rally on Long Island, when these Khalistanis took over, and the whole Indian 15 August rally was disrupted by them. But what happens is the rest of the community watches in silence, and they take all the advantages of these rioters, but they watch in silence. When something happens, they all cry. Oh, we were not part of it. Sure, you are part of it by being a silent spectator. So these others who don't do anything wrong, but they're silent spectators, kind of give their blessings to all these hooligans, what I would call Khalistanis, whether they are in India or outside India. Yes, a lot of Sikhs are beautiful people. They will do anything for the country or for nation, what we call Bharat. I don't want to make a blanket statement that Sikhs are bad. No, but plenty of them who are Khalistanis, whether they're 5% or 20%, should be dealt with an iron rod. What Prime Minister Modi's fault is, after CAA, he is scared. You are attacked only when you give chance to the people. Why nobody attacks a very strong man? Nobody touches him because they're scared the guy is going to slap him back. So when you are weak, people will attack you. Modi has shown weakness in the last year or so.
I totally, you will come, Mohan, I'll come to you. You are not amongst 20 people, so you don't have to raise your hand. Your turn is coming very soon. I just wanted to put that a little bit of a laughter and humor. The point here is very simple. You made a very valid point, and that's what I want to say. That yeah, I mean, no, an entire community is never bad. But what surprises me that you cannot disown the responsibility of that. You know, there's Sanskrit. They say a very nice phrase: "Maunam sukritanam lakshanam." If you stay silent, you are acquiescing to the whole process. You deem, because I do not know what you have. I cannot presuppose that you are supporting or against it. I do not have any ability to do that. Therefore, you know, I was thinking, I believe there are many, I have information to say that there are many Pakistanis are masquerading as Sikhs, as Khalistanis, and they are the ones who are most robustly violent. I do not know how many of them. Let them prove me wrong. I want Khalistanis to prove me wrong that they are all genuine Sikhs. Prove me wrong. But you can't, because you won't be able to do that. But you said a very important point that Mr. Modi is acting weak. And you are right. I believe so too. We are very strong supporters of Prime Minister. We want him to succeed. I have said that ever since, whatever motivation brought him, and I've said this on this program, on Jaipur Dialogue and everywhere else, the day he introduced the phrase, Sabka Vishwas, he has lost his mojo. Because he seems to be overburdened by that fact that मैं तो प्रधान सेवक हूँ, सबका नौकर हूँ. But you forget that yes, you were a chaiwala who became prime minister. You are not a prime minister who is serving chai. This is a role reversal happens in life. And you have to remember that you cannot be treated as a chaiwala what you were 30, 40, 50 years ago. This is the important distinction that Prime Minister needs to make right now. He has to show the muscle, the famous 56 inches that he said. He has to show it because there is nothing. Your life was attacked and people are incensed and angry. I have known people who have not slept for 36, 42 hours because they were so upset with the very thought that Modi can be attacked, and if he had died, probably Hindu future in India was over. I would dare to say that. So Mohan, coming to you on this element, you know, it's a very important point to say that India's strength lies in its traditions, heritage. And I'm noticing is that, you know, the entire historical past of Hindus is being gradually and systematically being decimated. And that's the reason why Modi, Yogi, Amit Shah, BJP, Hindus are a threat to the modern world. Because I'll come to your area of science and technology. Because science and technology is re-establishing the claims of Sanatan. No god has changed the role of sun, moon, water, or energy. It remains the same. How do you account for that part that science and technology is enabling Hinduism, Sanatan, to take the front seat? How are we, what must we do to claim that position? Go ahead.
I mean, if you look at Sanatana Dharma, it's already very scientific, and I would like to go a little step further than that and say it's beyond just scientific, because I had these debates in my college groups on how do you define science, and the definition of science is pretty hazy. But if you look at our philosophies, the darshan and all of them, the definitions are a lot more robust. So if you look at the pure definition of science, the best that I could get only forms a small portion of perhaps just one darshana called Nyaya or Vaisheshika, and that's about it. So our system's a lot more robust. So science would definitely help enhance Sanatana Dharma. And in the future, I think the word science itself can be replaced with one of the six darshanas. So we make more sense. I think we have a good role to play in that. But could I also address the previous issue? Just
Yes, yes,
wanted to
please go
have
ahead.
a few
Please go
words.
ahead. Yes, please.
So regarding the Khalistanis, one of my take in that is in 1980s, after Indira Gandhi's assassination, obviously there were riots created by Congress people. There are a few things that need to be noted. Is it's a very clearly established fact that most of those riots, those sponsored and facilitated by Congress, a lot of them were carried out. The actual killing was carried out by the Muslims. Not many people know that. It wasn't the Hindus who went ahead on a rampage and killed the Sikhs. It is actually the Muslims who went ahead and killed them. Because to them, if Hindus kill each other, that's a good thing. If one set of Hindus support killing the other Hindus, they are fine with it. So that is how Congress used. None of the Hindus were ready to kill them. It is the Muslims who went and killed and slaughtered most of the Sikhs. That's point one. And two, after this was done, the way they directed the whole thing is they made the Sikhs and the Khalistanis feel bitter about Bharat rather than Congress party. That was a fantastic spin and how they made it happen. Today we are at a crossroads where Sikhs have to decide if they are the descendants and the followers of their great Sikh gurus who are highly patriotic and the people that we all think are the greatest heroes that Bharat had, or are they the descendants of like supporters of say Aurangzeb, if they want to support the Muslims and the Pakistanis. It is for them to decide on which direction the Sikhism is going to take. And they cannot be silent spectators there because, as Einstein once said, the world is a difficult and dangerous place, not just because of bad people, but it is a dangerous place because of all the good people who do nothing about it. So you cannot have Sikhs sit there and say, I didn't do it. If you didn't do it in your community, somebody is leading it. If those leaders are going to take it along the path of Pakistani side, anti-Bharat, for whatever your reasons, that is not the Sikhism of your great gurus. You are anything but Sikh. It's just a namesake Sikh. That's all it is. So that doesn't make you a Sikh anymore. That's my opinion on that.
That's a valid point, because this is important, because you said something very significant, that the killers of Sikhs in 1984, where majority of them, or Congress party, had deployed its army of Muslims to do the butchering of Sikhs. Now, this is what bothers me. This is precisely the point which bothers me, is that the Sikhs who are supporting Congress party, and let's not fudge ourselves into believing that Congress party is milky white on this matter. They are unfortunately, knowing what I know, have been responsible for many political assassinations within their own party. So the question here is very simple, Sharmaji, that why is it that Sikhs themselves are not ostracizing these unwanted Sikhs who are claiming to be Khalistanis? And I am more than 100% sure that there are many of them are Pakistani agents. Let me put it this way to you, in the backdrop of love jihad, if we know that Muslim boys present themselves as Hindus who trap the girls and their own teachings, do whatever it takes to beat, kill, eliminate, convert the non-believer, what prevents them from doing that? I'm asking you a question, Sharmaji, that are we as a community, are we failing by being complacent, by being unable to act? राम भरोसे जाने दो, ठीक है होता रहेगा, famous Rajiv Gandhi's words, देखेंगे देखते रहेंगे, हो जाएगा whatever. That's what is worrisome. And Mohan earlier pointed out, it's a trial run. This was not a trial run, Mohan. I would say, when you make it was a trial run in the sense that it failed. Just as the 1992 bombing of World Trade Center can be reckoned as trial run, which was repeated as many years later. So today morning, I got the videos of how the Congress party and the people were doing drone surveillance of Prime Minister's movement. It is not going to go down lightly. What will be the precious time to take an action, I do not know. But Tell us, Mohan, Rakesh, we all know a lot of Sikh people. We have friends all over the place. What must happen for an average Sikh to say no to Khalistan? Because there was a video. I'm talking about the Congress party reaction and social media reaction of people. They are saying this was just Modi is just making it up. They have not accused him of plotting this, but they are saying they're just making it up. Or the 2020 federation referendum they did in London. Now there are freedoms. This is a very important point. Suddenly, all the anarchists, fascists, and people are talking about freedom enshrined in the societies where they go and flout the very freedom.
Okay, as we all know, education is the key, or the accurate information is the key to solve any problem.
Right.
Before I answer your question, yesterday someone sent me a video of another TV program that happened yesterday, and there were three people in New Jersey. One of them was Indian Overseas Congress in charge of president in New Jersey. So this guy said Modi planned this whole thing.
Oh, he did say that.
The reason being,
since it is on video,
yes,
would you name the person? Would you name the person?
It's on video. This guy is, of course, Indian. He lives in New Jersey. This was on ITV. Okay? So you can see that on ITV. I will send you the name and the video.
Please do.
So he said Modi planned this whole thing. The reason being, when he was leaving Bathinda airport, he was told the rally he was going to address has only 700 people there. So Modi did not want to face such a small crowd. So he planned this whole thing and created chaos on the highway. Now, another person sent me a video of the rally that Modi was going to address.
Right.
And that area has thousands and thousands of Punjabis.
Trucks, yes.
Yeah. The whole area was filled. I could say 20, 30,000 people at least. So this is how people spin the whole issue. Like, hey, Congress had nothing to do with it. State government had nothing to do with it. Modi planned the whole thing because rally had only 700 people. Okay. So
I'm so glad. I'm happily intervening here, Sharmaji, that you talked about ITV, certainly our show. I mean, so unfortunate. And I would love to meet that guy again.
This guy has guts to say this on TV in a live program. Now, we have these kind of, either you can call them stupid people or anti-national people. They have no shame, and they are going to blame their own party's failure on Prime Minister Modi. Anyway, so what shall we do? Why these people, your question was why Khalistanis are not blaming Congress party, or why are they pro-Pakistan and pro-Islam? Here, I think it's a lack of education. I don't know, you perhaps never been to Punjab or maybe as a tourist, but Punjab 40, 50 years ago had very low literacy rates. And I don't know what's the literacy rate now, but if you go to villages in Punjab, those days, there were no schools. Out of 5 villages, 1 had a school. So most of the people grew up without getting any education. So the 10, 20 people sit together in teenage years. Whatever you said, if you said the chicken has 3 legs, they would believe you because they had never seen a chicken. So they would believe that, yeah, chicken definitely must have 3 legs because Mr. Vibhuti Jha said so. So it's a lack of education of these people. Whatever they are being told, they accept it, and they grew up in that way. If today they are being told that Hindus are bad or Modi is bad and Navjot Sidhu is their best hope, and if you listen to Navjot Sidhu or some guy named Pannu who is in US and might give you $100,000 if you post a flag on Red Fort, then these people are just going to follow those kind of things. They really have no knowledge, no education. So we have failed to teach our own countrymen what Hinduism is, what India is, and what they should be taught. Unfortunately, the first 5 education ministers in India were all Muslims, so they also made it sure that Indians don't know about their own history.
Right.
They, I'm sure, had policies to divide Sikhs and Hindus. Just to finish my point, I know Mohan wants to say something.
Yeah.
When Pakistan was created, British government asked Indian leaders, where do you want to put the Sikhs? I mean, Hindus want India, and or Pakistanis want Muslims want Pakistan, and so Hindus will stay in India. What do we do with the Sikhs? So Sikhs themselves decided, along with Hindu leaders, that count us as Hindus, not as Muslims. So that's why all the Sikhs migrated to India, those who lived in Pakistan. Unfortunately, few were left in Pakistan and they are miserable, but all the Sikhs moved to India being part of Hindus.
Right. Thank
So
you.
I just want to make a quick, just a very quick point. I'm not too sure about that education part because as I see it, the most literate and educated state is Kerala, and that isn't going anywhere either. So I think it is so I think it is the right kind of education. The way I think Punjab is torn apart is basically they have introduced, like in Afghanistan and other areas, they've introduced drugs, alcohol, and all of those things, which Rahul Gandhi himself has mentioned once. I mean, Rahul Gandhi, all said and done, he talks little stupid things, and he actually said it bluntly that this is the most drug-infested area. So that is how they tore Punjabis. That needs to be contained. And yes, Sikhs do need to take responsibility on who is going to lead their movement. Is it going to be the Khalistanis, the Aurangzeb ke saput, or is it going to be their Sikh gurus who are highly patriotic people? Which side, who dominates their thought process? And talking about the literacy part again, there are deeper regions in Madhya Pradesh and UP which are completely illiterate, but they're highly patriotic. And they have a lot more knowledge and they cling a lot more to our Hindu culture than some of the most educated elite. So that's my perspective on that.
Thank you.
So I have a little response to that.
Yeah, quickly, because I want to switch over to another very
Yes.
important topic for all of us. Yes, go ahead.
All these illiterate people that we call in middle of India, they have been told from day one that their Bhagwan is Ram and Krishna, and this is their country, and they're going to fight for it. They were never told anything else, so that's why they're very patriotic. Sikhs, on the other hand, or Khalistanis, on the other hand, in Punjab, have been given a choice. If you stay with Sidhu and these other people, you will get your own nation called Khalistan out of India. So that's why they are acting the way they are acting. If they were really degree holder people, they would have thought very well, if they were very well educated, hey, we came out of Hindus, our gurus were Hindus. There is no fun having a landlocked small country called Khalistan within India and Pakistan and go nowhere, because most of the Sikhs who live outside Punjab are perhaps most prosperous Indians. So why create a problem where you become poorer, not better off?
That is a good point. I mean, I want to switch to another very important topic for all NRIs, particularly Indians living in any part of the world, starting from the United States. But I wanted to add one more thing here. Education has, I don't know, it is a subject matter of debate, because all the 9/11 bombers, participants, all of them were very educated. So the question here is, what is the trigger point for people to act the way it is? But I do believe in one thing. I do believe in one thing. Silence is not golden in matters of such significance. If whether it's a Hindu or a Sikh or a Muslim who stays quiet, or we are not doing the violence, others are doing it, then you are complicit in it, whether you like it or not. The pyramid theory holds good in this instance, because I can't say I didn't know or I don't know, I don't care. No, that's not care. You need to care, because our reputation is being sullied. That's what is important. And that's where I say that our strength lies in our traditions. It's our heritage. It's a beautiful heritage. The more you study, you realize it. And it's real past, vital memories and way of life. Think about it. I was doing a program on chapter 16 of Bhagavad Gita with 40 non-Indians, all right, done by an American who has converted to Sanatan. That's a fabulous thing. Believe it or not, there comes a realization when you find that these 40 non-Indians had recognized and understood when I told them that the entire chapter 16, you talked about the virtues and dharma and adharma of people, but there was no mention of religion. There was no mention of God. It was all about people, individual and collectively. That is the beauty of Gita. It doesn't talk about religion per se in Abrahamic way it is. I want to switch over. Therefore, in my opinion, Prime Minister Modi, you need to show some determination at this point in time. This is India's, Hindus, and yours, Lakshman Rekha. And that's where you have to draw the line. With these words, I want to switch over to another topic. The other topic is Islamophobia bill. It has passed the House. It is introduced by Cory Booker in New Jersey in the Senate, to the Senate committee to be examined. It is very important for all Indians to bear in mind that it is a US law. So no other country in the world has a right to say what law you pass or not. That's a given. US has the right to pass its own laws. The important part is that law will be open to India. India can tell United States, go to hell. The response would be, I'll cancel all the military orders with you. Okay, you want to accuse me of this? I'm not going to do business with you. There is a response for that. India government, China, Myanmar, France, all those who are targeted in this bill, they can tell United States, go to hell. What is happening is you and I, if we talk about, even if we distribute a video on jihadi killings or terrorist killings, that will be branded as propaganda and incitement. Do you know, out of the 7 elements of the bill, appointment of special envoy and others, and to analyze the anti-Islamic acts happening in other countries of the world by the envoy, the 2 elements which are very critical, and you and I, every NRI, and every non-Muslim needs to come to terms with, is that they are talking about anything that you say can be deemed as propaganda and incitement. And as a consequence, you and I are supposed to be going to a training camp and education about understanding Islam. The bill doesn't define what is Islamophobia. So I gave this example in my show, and I gave this example to some people, that ask Kashmiris, they were threatened with no choice. Leave, convert, or die. Is that phobia, or is that genuine fear? And that's what we must demand from our Cory Bookers of the world. They love you, they love us. We had a scenario when Chuck Schumer came to API event in Long Island, talked about great Indians and great doctors and great immigrants and everything else, but they go and pass this bill. They are permanently trying to maim and silence our freedoms, the freedom that America loves. Doctor and Mohan, both of you, take your shot.
So I would like to go on this one. So I was just thinking if they could also pass a bill. I mean, the COVID is such a serious problem nowadays. If they could pass a bill for COVIDophobia, that'll be fine too. Just because you're scared people are dying and therefore the COVID doesn't exist, you can't talk about COVID. I think that should solve the problem. That is how Islamophobia bill looks like. There is real crimes that are happening. They are actually doing certain things. People are dying across the world, from Kashmiri Pandits to so many other places in Bengal and Kerala and many other places. Yet you have something called Islamophobia without addressing why there is a phobia. Why are they scared? If you don't address that, then that whole bill is a nonsense. Just like you cannot say COVIDophobia and then say the COVID will be gone. No, it won't be gone. There is a phobia because COVID kills people and therefore you're scared that you might get one. Now, Islamophobia, yes, there are swaths of areas where they have wiped out non-Muslims and they continue to do so. If you do not address on why are people scared, because the scare is legitimate, if you don't address it and simply say you're not supposed to feel scared, that's not going to help, right?
That's it.
So this is going to fall flat. I mean, it's going to work against America. For see, anything that is
Absolutely correct. I'm sorry to interfere here. I mean, interject here, because that's what I said in a major program, that this bill unknowingly undermines American authority.
yeah,
It undermines American authority so badly designed, or is it deliberately designed? See, I never underestimate my opponent. I never underestimate. They don't do things because they are stupid. The outcome could be stupid, but they don't do things because it is stupid. Sharmaji, your thoughts on it before we close the show today.
Yeah, Islamophobia bill is the biggest joke, and I don't know how the House passed this bill. I kind of wonder: are these congressmen and women really are intelligent people? Do they have any common sense? Should we give them an exam? All of these people, all the Democratic congressmen and women who voted yes for this bill, and see if they really pass that kind of exam. That's number one. They all should be recalled, and they should be election again for all these Democratic representatives. Um, and the whole bill came in because Ilhan Omar fears people attacking Islam because she covers her head. One Republican congresswoman made some comment on her while she was in the elevator. That's number one. Number two, very nice statement came out of a representative of Pennsylvania, Scott Perry, who said Ilan Omar is anti-Semitic, as well as she has ties to terrorist organizations. So all these Democratic representatives were shocked to hear that. But this guy has a point. Whether she has any ties or not, but Islamophobia word itself has never been defined in the bill. So Perry genuinely has a problem with this bill, saying, hey, what do you define Islamophobia as? I want to know that, number one. Number two, if you are going to have this kind of blanket law that will part of our state government, then under this law, you will kill the democratic ideas of Western society that we are so proud of. You can say, well, to protect Islam, we shall do A, B, and C. So anything you say tomorrow is going to go against Islam. To protect Islam, you will be banned to say that Prophet Muhammad actually married 9-year-old girl. So if you ever say that, you could be put in jail because this is Islamophobia. You're scaring Islamic people or
Right.
people of other religion. And although this is a fact that Muhammad married 9-year-old girl, but you won't be allowed to say that anymore. So ISIS, whatever we call it anymore now, they they went along with
We are
what.
running out of time, Rakesh Sharmaji. So, wanted to say, totally agree with you that viewers and listeners of this show, and those who will watch it later on YouTube, bear in mind a few things. And that what, apart from 7 items listed in the Islamophobia bill, 2 items stood out for me, that you cannot even question a legitimate reasoning or a scientific discussion whether 72 virgins is a real concept, whether the earth is flat, whether anything about Islam, whether praying 5 times and killing people is justified, is human. No, you and I can't even talk about it anymore. It will be branded as incitement and propaganda. That's another one part of it. Second part of it, or the 7th item is, we will have to go through anti-bias and tolerance education. This is where you lose out on everything else. So ask your senators, specifically prominent people like API and Hindu organizations, don't fear being branded as Islamophobic, but you exercise your fundamental right to ask a question, a legitimate question. Asking Cory Booker, Chuck Schumer, who come to our shows and champion Hindus and immigrants and Indians and everything else, and they do things which are against our interest. It's shame for us. It's absolutely shameful for us. It is where we are failing in our responsibility to ask our representatives, are you in your senses when you are doing this? What is motivating you? I heard that CARE and other Islamic organizations, this is a report, I could be wrong, but it went about known on a hush-hush basis that they had raised over $100,000 to swing one or two Republican senators in Senate. So the people who are against us, they are trying to undermine us systematically. Likewise, and the media collaborates. So, for example, whoever was that Indian National Congress guy who talked about that there were only 700 people and Modi had planted his all, these people need to be exposed, called out. I invite you, whoever you are. As of now, Sharma ji hasn't told your name to me. Most probably, I know you. Most probably, we have had a common debate. If it is so, come on my show. Let's debate that very point of yours. I will devote an hour of time to debate that issue of yours, that accusation that Modi planted. So, my last message to you, Prime Minister Modi, you have to show a determined action. This is a Lakshman Rekha that the enemies have crossed, and whatever is the evil, it is reported that you withdrew the blacklist, Prime Minister Modi, of the Sikhs who were Khalistanis who were doing all nonsense in India in the last 2021 Republic Day. Reinstall that blacklist, ban them from coming to India, take some determined action. With these words, I want to thank Mohan and Rakesh for being on the show. I really enjoyed it because we are not intelligence bureau specialists or political scientists. We are common men. We are using our common sense to air issues and talk about it. So thank you, viewers. Have a great week and have a great weekend. And see you next
Thank
week.
you.
And Mohan, I want to
Thank you.
congratulate you
Namaste.
for creating up a new word called Wuhan COVID phobia. I'm going to use that in my tweet today, giving credit to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if that could solve it, so could this.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
namaste.
Namaste.